Hello, good evening, and welcome to this episode 9 of the Sullen Art Podcast. Tonight with me, as always, is my co-host Iqbal Malik.
Good evening.
And we have a special guest because it is a Swansea Fringe themed evening. For the third year running, the Fringe Festival will be starting next weekend. I believe that the warm-up show is in the Brangwyn Hall on the Thursday, is it not?
That's right, October 3rd.
And I've been incredibly rude. I haven't introduced tonight's guest, Emily No, I was going to say Shoe. You've made me say Shoe. Emily, can you please correct me on how to pronounce your second name because I'm being rubbish?
Vanderploeg.
Emily Vanderploeg. Emily, thank you so much for coming on this evening. So, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Well, I am the volunteer coordinator for the Fringe Festival, which is why I'm here. And I'm a writer. I write fiction and poetry, and I'm an occasional teacher as well. I teach writing mainly, and English, and sometimes drama, and occasionally tap dancing, but not for quite some time.
So we must let listeners know, obviously, because if you've listened to episode 7, you'll know that we had heralded Joe Bayliss to be sitting here, but forfeited it.
He's under the weather. He sent me really in his stead.
In his stead, and it's a much nicer stead, to be perfectly honest.
Is he hungover? Let's get this out of the way.
I was told that he's got a sore throat and he's losing his voice.
Fags and beers, mate. It's got to be.
Joe doesn't smoke.
Okay.
Joe is not like that at all.
Yeah.
Beers, no. Joe's a bit more refined. He does like his real ale and his whiskey.
I was going to say, I think he's a whiskey connoisseur.
He is a bit of a whiskey
connoisseur. He's moved on to
connoisseur.
wine. He thinks it's healthier.
But we all know that's just a lie, don't we? We know it's completely
Well, he's moving in
yeah.
different circles now, though, isn't he? You know, he's got to be seen to be a bit more refined amongst the drinking clientele.
No, you've seen Black Books.
Yes.
There's no refinement in drinking the
No.
cheapest thing you can grab from Quick Save.
But I don't think Joe is really going for the Black Books sort of...
I don't know, mind. By the end of this Fringe Festival, you might be...
Maybe so.
Well,
Maybe
you know. So, how did you get involved in the Fringe?
Well, so the Fringe, as it is now, is a revival. It used to exist, and it's existed in different forms over many years, decades even. But it hadn't really been going strongly for about 20 years until 3 years ago. Joe and one of the other coordinators, Simon Parton, they revived it. And I was sitting at home, and a friend of mine said, he texted me and said, "The Swansea Fringe Festival needs volunteers. They're having a meeting in an hour, and you have nothing better to do. So hop on a bus." So I did. It was a night quite like this. It was raining and dark, and I hopped on the bus. And I met Joe and the other volunteers, and I started volunteering.
So, where was the first meeting, if you don't mind me asking?
It was in the Last Resort, RIP,
Oh,
on the High Street.
Sadly now gone, isn't it?
Did they buy you any drinks?
Yes.
Did they pay for your bus fare?
No.
Right. See? I knew it.
Oh, this
I
is
knew
good.
it.
We're going to air some dirty laundry.
That was 2 years ago, and now you're on your third one. So you must be doing... You're either a glutton for punishment, or you must be doing a hell of a good job.
Well, the first year I was just a volunteer, I'd say, but our volunteers are not just volunteers. They're great. But the first year was a lot of kind of figuring out what the Fringe Festival was going to be. And not too many people had sort of clearly defined roles, just because they're trying to figure out how to do it. And it was a great success, but I could see that it was difficult for the organizers to organize all the people in addition to all of the artists and venues and everything else. So I volunteered my organizational skills. So last year I received the official role of volunteer coordinator. So I gather all the people together and timetable them and make sure they're all well fed and hydrated and wearing their t-shirts. And it was really fun. both years have been really fun, and I'm really excited to be doing it again this year.
How many volunteers would you say do you have at the moment?
At the moment, my last count, we had about 33.
Is that enough to? Because it's the. I mean, let's not exaggerate. The Fringe does span the majority of the city.
It does. So I think we have it all depends on how available everyone is. We have 33 people, most of whom have said, I'm available all weekend. Just tell me where to go. So that's a huge help. And we have some events that are not ticketed, so we don't necessarily need volunteers at those events. So for those listening, there are lots of free things on as well, but the tickets are very reasonably priced.
How much are the tickets?
So if you want to go to one event, let's say there's a band that you like, it's £5 on the door. But if you wanted a wristband for a whole day or a weekend, the weekend wristbands are £25, and that's for 3 whole days of programming. You can go to anything you like. And a day ticket is £12.50, and the same principle applies.
£25 for 3 days is pretty good.
It really is.
No, if you think about it.
There are literally, hundreds of things to do throughout the city centre that you can listen to music all night long in Sin City, the Bunkhouse. There's poetry on in Cinema & Co. There's comedy, art in Elysium, and music and things in Volcano. It's just all over the city. So it's really, you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Does it frustrate you, though, because obviously there's so much going on? Are there going to be things that you're not going to be able to see? Is it an unfortunate sort of payoff?
Well, I mean, I make the volunteers' timetable. So if I really want to see something, I can put myself there.
Is there anything in particular this year that you're quite excited to see?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to the First Collections event. It's a literary event. So it's writers who are publishing first collections of poetry and short stories.
Who is going to be there then, in terms of the first publications?
I know that Jane Fraser, her book with the Southwesterlies, is going to be there. I believe Hanan Issa is coming with her poetry pamphlet.
I think she's from Cardiff, is she?
She is.
Yeah.
So don't hold that against her.
No.
Swansea Fringe.
No, not at all.
And I'm ashamed to say I can't remember who the other two are, but I'm looking forward to it. Folk at the Fringe, I always enjoy that. It's like a long program of different folk artists, but there's something for everyone. If you want heavy metal, we've got that too.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about the heavy metal. Have you got anyone decent on this year or not?
I am not an expert to say,
no,
but they're always decent.
Anyone you can think of off the top of your head?
There's a lot of bands with like Dead and Die and Death in their names. So if
you'll have to forgive my co-host Emily. He's being quite precocious because I know full well. You know full well the Psych on stage is Hangar 18, which Perla are playing on the Sunday. I think Green Mailer are playing. You've also got Prosperina are playing. The Rusty Nuts, my band, are playing. On my stage, I might add as well.
Yeah,
so.
that's pretty cool, though. I mean, how do you feel about having a stage, for your shop, Psychon?
Well, Joe approached me. So I hadn't spoken to Joe for a little while because I played the first year of the Fringe. We played the 8-Bit Bar. I don't know, is the event still going there? It's the street?
Where I don't think it exists anymore.
It's the Strand. So there's.
Was it the Pit?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, the Pit is no more. And I don't know what kind of bar it is now. So I can't say for sure. We
played there. It didn't do last year. And then Joe approached me when the shop was open to lend our name to the stage at Hangar 18, which I was incredibly flattered. So yeah, that's what we're doing. The only thing that sort of made me laugh about it is Joe actually put my band to play at Crowley's. Well, why am I playing at Crowley's if it's supposed to be tied in with my... What, shouldn't I be playing my stage? But that's just Joe. And he obviously got a lot on, so, funny.
That's madness.
I mean, that's a cheeky little venue, though, isn't it, Crowley's? I mean, that's been around for years. It's upstairs, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where your heavy metal's going to be.
quite
There's
small
also
room, isn't it?
quite a lot in Hangar 18, the Bunkhouse, and Sin City.
Do you think the city's is it becoming part of the annual thing for the city, the Fringe now? Do you think it's gained enough traction? Because obviously, to sort of, not couch it, but to sort of explain it, when we started doing the podcast, I sort of made it a big thing to Iqbal said, look, we can't just do one. You do one and put it up, it looks awful. And you can't do like just 2 or 3 because then it looks, so you kind of want to get ahead of steam about 5, 6 or 7. So you're on year 3. Yeah. It's staying then, obviously, which is good news. So. Yeah, no, which is good news. So, do you think has it been well received? I mean, because you've been there from the inception.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's definitely grown from the last 2 years, and our pre-sale of wristbands has been really good this year. We've had a lot of interest. There are the number of acts has increased per year, and people tend to bring their friends and family who then tell other people. And we found that a lot of people just kind of happen to be in town and said, it seems like there's something going on. What is it? And we got a lot of people that way who said, I've never been to a poetry event, but if I can get in with my wristband, so I'm going to give it a try. Or same thing goes for a band you've never heard of or some comedy. And I do think that it's becoming something that people look forward to in the city. It's nice as well that the council has done concurrent things with us. So they're putting on cinema in Castle Gardens.
Is that the superhero thing I saw?
Yeah. I can't remember which movie it is. One of those big.
It's one of the Avengers,
ones.
yeah. Or both of them.
And there's going to be food trucks, and that's on the Saturday night, 5th of October. And meanwhile, in all the venues surrounding it, there's Fringe stuff happening, including our headquarters is in 3 Lamps overlooking Castle Square.
That's a nice venue for headquarters, isn't it?
Did Joe pick that?
He did. Well, he told me where it would be. Yeah. The first year we were sort of loosely in Volcano. Last year we were in Copper. So it's nice that we're kind of using different parts of different places in the city.
You've got that lovely balcony at the top, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I know.
It's quite nice up there.
You do have to give
it... We won't be up top.
Where will you be?
In the entrance. We got to be where people can find us, right?
So listeners to the podcast will obviously denote by your quite nice lilt that you're not from Swansea originally, are you, Emily? Where are you from originally?
I was going to bust out my best Swansea accent.
I like to mush a little bit. No, go
on. No, I'm from Canada.
What part of Canada are you from?
I'm from Ontario.
Right, okay. Can we have a little bit of a background? Because I like Canada a lot, and I'd like to know a little bit more. So, okay, Canada. Sum it up for us.
Big country. Everybody's nice. Not a lot of people in it. It's cold sometimes, but it's also quite hot in the summer, which a lot of people don't realize. And yeah.
But you were saying to me off air, because I made the glaring error. I said, hey, what state do you hail from? And you went, no, it's province. And I was like, quick as a flash, went, okay, I guess I made a huge mistake here. But yeah, so geographically, where is Ontario for our listeners?
Ontario is east of the middle of the country. It borders New York State and...
So you got Niagara then? You share Niagara with?
We have Niagara Falls, we have Toronto, we have the nation's capital, Ottawa.
Is your next province over Nova Scotia?
No. That's on the East Coast,
East Coast,
Atlantic.
okay.
Next province over is Quebec, where people speak French.
Are they nice to you, the French?
I don't know. I don't mix with them.
You don't mix with them?
No, I have some relatives in Quebec.
That's a hell of a cocktail,
They're very nice. They always bring really great cheese to parties.
Well, this is an interesting thing that I've always been curious about. What is the whole thing with Quebec and the rest of Canada? So is Quebec its own republic within Canada? Because I don't understand it. What exactly is Quebec?
It's a province as well. It's sort of similar to Wales. They... Well, I don't know if they have official nationhood. I don't think so. I'd have to go back to my history lessons. But basically around, 400 years ago, the French went to Canada and colonized, and then the English did, and then they fought over it for a while. And the English eventually won, but there were a lot of French people by then because they'd lived there for a few hundred years. And so there's a big French population in the country.
Is there sort of like in Wales? So do you see echoes of that in Wales? You know, because we have S4C over here. Are there specifically French-Canadian TV stations? I know there are French-Canadian movies because I've seen a few. Good Cop, Bon Cop, which is kind of like and there's Good Cop, Bon Cop 2.
There is. Those are one of the highest grossing films ever in Canada.
Are they really? Good Cop, Bon Cop?
Yeah.
See, I would have thought Fubar would have been another one which would be quite high. Do you know that?
It's a bit niche. See, Bon Cop, Good Cop is more, well, it appeals to everyone. There's like an actor that everybody recognizes, and there's a hockey murder. Like, who doesn't like that?
To Iqbal's looking perplexed. So, right, Bon Cop, Good Cop, it plays up the whole English French divide in Canada, and a guy is found on the I can't call it state line.
No, it's the
border,
the provincial border between Quebec and Ontario.
And one half of him's in the English part, and one half is in the French part. So then, like, well, is he? Well, he's they're trying to decide between them where and which police authorities.
I'm trying to get my head around the title of that film.
It's clever.
Bon Cop, Good Cop.
Yeah, no, that's not the title. It's Bon Cop, Bad Cop.
Bon Cop. I do apologise.
That's the bit I wasn't getting.
Sorry,
it's like, well, that would make more sense.
Bon Cop, Good. Yeah, Bon Cop, Bad Cop. I'm sorry. It's been a long day for me. I apologise to all my
Haven't
Canadian
seen that one
fans.
either, mine, but yeah.
It's a good film. It is a really good film. There's quite a few good Canadian films. So.
And you are deep into your buddy cop movies. This is your thing.
I found out about it because I watch Hot Fuzz over and over and over and over again, and I did a bit of researching online, and I'm sitting here wearing a Rush t-shirt. Okay, so I'm a huge
my brother would jump in right now and say 3-piece band sounds like an orchestra.
Well, he's not too far off the mark. They're absolutely fantastic. One of the best. Well, Canada's had some fantastic exports. It has. I mean, okay, Trailer Park Boys for one. Good hockey. What are you looking at me like? Oh, okay, go on.
No,
go on. Ask the question.
No.
What's the question?
There's no question.
No, there was a look.
There's no question. I'm just wondering where you're going to go listing off.
Good things that Canada's exported.
Well, sort of musically. No, go for it.
Okay, Michael J. Fox, Canadian. Dan Aykroyd.
He's not Canadian.
Yes, he is. Dan Aykroyd, Canadian. Jim Carrey, Canadian. John Candy, Canadian.
What about Michael J. Fox? Have you got anything on him?
He's from Vancouver, which is like pretty far away, but I've heard he's very nice.
Oh, man, he's one of my favourite actors.
I was really chuffed at how
really
surprised you sort of what Michael J. Fox?
Yeah.
What a cultural icon of our youth is
I just didn't know
Canada.
that. I just like So now I do.
Canada's fascinating because there's so many cultural touchstones for me which you think are American and they aren't. I mean,
well, Pamela Anderson was our centennial baby.
There you go. There's the other thing I was going to say about Canada, which there was when because I love my comedy, and I'm going to mention a comedy show now, which is Canadian, which you probably already know what I'm going to say, which not many people remember from the UK, but it did have. This ties into a previous broadcast where you said, "Why are you laughing? What's so funny?"
It's going to be something like Alf or something.
It's not Alf. It's better than Alf. No, it's not Alf. It's way better. We were so starved in the UK for anything exotic from America or Canada. Yeah, well, it was exotic because it was different. Kids in the Halls, which was which is
the Kids in the Hall. It's my youth.
It was my youth as well. Like, gosh, your head. Anyway, it's. If you have never seen it, dear listener of the podcast, go and check out some Kids in the Halls videos on YouTube. Good luck finding the complete DVD box set because it's rarer than Rockin' Horse Doodah. But it's a very funny, very good Canadian comedy series. It ran for years, didn't it?
About 4 or 5 years. Then half of them were kind of poached for Saturday Night Live, and others did sitcoms and that kind of thing, and still are.
See, I could talk for a long time about Canada, and I haven't even talked
We're
about...
a super fan. Who
I am.
knew?
I love the place, and and bands. I mean, there's like two of my favorite bands are both from Canada, so there we go.
Which ones are those out of
Well,
interest?
the first one is Rush, which we pointed out, and the second one are from St. Catharines.
It's a nice town.
Alexis on Fire,
Near Niagara.
which is... Have you heard of Dallas Green, City and Colour?
No.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, anyway, they're another one of my sort of favourite bands. But there's lots of other great bands from Canada. There's some fantastic groups, musicians. It's a lovely, lovely place. And it's one of those places that when sort of people say to me, you know, would you ever go on a holiday, emigrate? I'd be terrified of going to Canada because I know I wouldn't want to come back.
Who was Jeff Towns on about in Canada at the book fair? Was it Canada he went to? Was it
He went to New York, I know that
It
much.
was a New York one, was
Yeah.
it? Oh, God, it wasn't like...
You're talking about Brad Pitt. He was definitely not Canadian.
No. Was it? No, I can't remember. Right, just ignore that.
Well, no, don't ignore it.
I'm just trying to remember who
There's
it
a
was.
Canadian
Like,
connection.
Is Brian Adams from Canada?
Yes, Brian Adams is from Canada.
Did he mention him?
Yes, he
I feel like
did.
might
Yes, he
have.
did. Yes, he had a specific thing where Brian Adams was one of his biggest.
That's right.
Brian Adams also shares something with you.
Oh, here we go.
He's a
on then.
vegan.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Brian
right.
Adams is a vegan.
You know a lot of sort of general
I
stuff
love
about
Brian
vegan.
Adams. I think
Yeah.
he's a highly underrated artist. There we go. I said it.
He doesn't come home very much, and he refused to do Canadian content rules, so he's like not as beloved.
What's Canadian content rules? What's that?
Well, it's this interesting thing that happened. I don't know when the legislation was, 80s maybe, 70s, whereby Canadian broadcasters, radio, television, are required by law to have a certain percentage of broadcast that is made in Canada by Canadians. And often that could even mean that the subject matter of the program or song should refer to Canadian themes, kind of to sort of build the culture itself, which I don't really think is a bad thing because it's produced a lot of things that may never have been produced. They would have just bought American TV shows and that kind of thing.
It's not a bad shout. I mean, it's like the Welsh language stuff.
But they do
isn't
it in France as well. It's like, isn't it 80% of the output on the radio has to be French?
Oh, now that is a Steve Balsamo reference to his. I think he brought something up, didn't he, about that? Perhaps I've.
Well, you can't deny Canada's cultural impact on the world, can you?
No.
Yeah, but everybody thinks it was Americans.
No, we don't. We're
It's a tricky place, though. It's a tricky place, Canada. Like you're
Go
sort
on.
of knee deep in snow.
Oh, not all the year.
time.
You got the French on one side,
What is wrong with you
and
now?
you got the Americans on the other.
Well,
come on.
I've got a theory, right, that I think Canada and Wales are quite similar places.
Go on.
So they are both former colonies of England. They're both bilingual. They both have a big overbearing neighbor who takes up a lot of space and attention.
Yeah.
What, Greenland? I'm joking. I'm sorry.
I think that they have a similar cultural outlook. They're quite nationalistic, but in a sort of sweet way.
Yeah.
They're generally like nice, friendly people who have a bit of a self-esteem problem as a nation, I think.
Really? What do you put that down to then? Is that
well,
just a lack of self-confidence generally, culturally, or?
I think it's something like it'll be in the news if, say, a famous American pays attention to something that a Canadian did. Kind of like, oh, the cool kid talked to me kind of reaction. And I think there's something similar in Wales, kind of like, oh, look, Wales is in the national news.
Oh,
not
cultural
just on
recognition.
Yeah. Instead of just being like, well, of course they would because we're the best.
Yeah, but this goes back to the thing of if somebody did do their research. I mean, okay, Dan Aykroyd God bless him, have you seen the Crystal Skull vodka that he's produced over the past like 5 or 10 years?
I think you might have pointed that out.
Yeah,
to
this
me
has
at
won
Brewster.
awards in Russia. The way that John's gone, the way that Dan Aykroyd's gone about marketing it and producing it, he's put a lot of time and effort into it. And I got a hell of a lot of respect for him because growing
I
up,
also saw him at the movies once with his wife. He looked like he was really enjoying it.
what did he? Now tell me, he hadn't gone to watch himself, had he?
No.
Because that would just be
I
hysterical.
don't remember what it was. I didn't see him in the theater. We were kind of at the concession stand.
Well, that's lovely. That's really sweet, though. That is really sweet.
Well, it's just a regular guy doing a regular thing.
But
isn't
he's
it?
a regular guy. He comes
Yeah.
across like as a
Well,
regular
you know,
guy.
look, he I've seen him in his hometown because he was, I don't know, visiting his aging parents or something. I don't know. So I think that's pretty sweet that he goes there every summer.
I mean, so yeah, you have Dan Aykroyd, John Candy. When I was growing up, one of the big films that I always remember watching was a film called The Great Outdoors, where you've got 2 Canadians in the lead role, right? Absolutely fantastic movie. I'm not going to go into the plot now because you've never seen it. But if you haven't seen it, dear listener, please watch The Great Outdoors. Dan Aykroyd, John Candy. It's one of John Candy's better films. All of John Candy's films are fantastic. Uncle Buck, if you've not seen Uncle Buck, go watch Uncle Buck now. Just stop listening to the podcast. Go and listen to it. Go and watch it
It
because
has
it's
a
absolutely
few
fantastic.
questionable things in it now that probably wouldn't make it into a movie, but it's still good.
Go on, hit me with it.
Well, he tries to like beat up that kid with a golf club.
Because he's trying to...
Yeah, he's trying to take advantage of his
His
niece,
niece.
but like he's also like a 16-year-old boy, so
I know what you're saying, but the
I'm
bug...
saying this
the
as a
bug
qualified
needed to,
teacher.
The bug needed to be squashed.
I'm on your side here.
That
I'm
there
on
are
your
other
side.
ways to squash a bug.
Yeah. It is quite funny though when he, I mean, we look at it through the lens of time, it's completely different. When he goes into the room, he thinks his niece is in that room with the bug and he's got the long drill bit.
Yeah, that part's
That's
funny.
Yeah. And he puts him in the trunk. I'm actually going to stop saying now because it's going to spoil it. But it's also one of Macaulay Culkin's first films. Is he Canadian? No, he's not. There you go. America can have Macaulay Culkin. So when did you come over to Wales?
I came here in 2006
Okay.
to study, and I was back and forth a lot because of visas and studying and all that stuff for about 9 years. And then I had to move away because I couldn't live here anymore. And then I moved to Hungary and became a European and came back.
Okay. So what did you come over to study?
Creative writing.
Right, fantastic. And you did mention, Joe mentioned to me earlier, you are actually a poet as well.
Yes, I am. I have a book coming out, a pamphlet, with Cinnamon Press in the new year.
Okay. So can you shed a little bit of... Oh, sorry, go on. Because you're qualified to talk
No,
on this.
it's not about being qualified. No, I was just going to, because not everybody knows about Cinnamon Press. I don't know a substantial amount about it, but I mean, perhaps you could just enlighten people about, who they are, where they're from, and how you got involved with that.
Yeah, so Cinnamon is an independent publisher in North Wales. They've been going for a long time. They're kind of an old hat publisher in Wales. And they have an annual poetry pamphlet competition. So for those who don't know, a pamphlet is a short book of poetry. So if a collection of poetry is, I don't know, say 50 or more poems, a pamphlet's about half that. And so I submitted to the competition and I won.
What was the competition?
It was the Cinnamon Press Poetry Pamphlet Competition.
Okay. So they're basically funding it then, and they'll bring it out next year, you said?
Yeah, so the prize was to have your book published. So they chose 3 winners, which will come out as a series of pamphlets sometime in the new year. They're just going to the printers soon. So
That's pretty cool,
few more
actually,
months.
isn't it?
Very
Achievement?
cool.
That's really impressive.
yeah.
You're gonna have to get Joe to put you on at the Fringe, I think, next year.
Yeah,
with
is
that.
that a conflict of
That's
interest?
superb.
Can he put you on? Or?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a conflict of interest, rather. because the literature programmers are Reese and Adam, who also run the poetry podcast, the Crunch crossover podcast.
Yeah, I know the Crunch. I mean, it's a good podcast, man. It's worth having a look at. I'm not sure if I've actually sent you a link to it yet. Or
No,
not,
I don't think you have.
But they tend to get on published poets. Quite a lot of them are from Parthian. I think. I think that's
right.
like a big
I don't
link
think
with them.
that's intentional. I think it's more so that it's people that they know, and Parthian is based in Swansea.
Yeah.
But the Crunch has a nice Swansea history as well, because it used to be a poetry open mic night about 10 years ago. It ran for a few years.
In fact, it was the predecessor to Howl, which is the one I'm now comparing.
That's
right. So Adam,
it's still going.
Adam set that up. I mean, it's a good legacy story as well, isn't it?
It is.
And sort of taking that into the digital kind of field with the Crunch podcast, etc. So it's nice. I mean, the guys are great. Adam, Reese, Owen Williams. I thought Richard James Jones was involved in that
He
as well,
is.
isn't he?
So Richard, and he's one of our Fringe volunteers. But in terms of the Fringe organization, Richard's not involved in that part of it. But he is part of the Crunch podcast. Yeah.
Are you performing much at all around Swansea with your poetry?
I haven't for a while.
Why not?
Yeah, that's the
a
other
good
question.
Come on.
I don't know why not.
Come out to play in the poetry world. I mean, there's quite a lot going on, really.
And when the Crunch was going, it was twice a month, and I went unfailingly. I think, I don't know, everybody got a bit older, like meaning myself, and I don't go out as much. I think that's the main reason. Also, I've been working on a novel, so I haven't really been in like a poetry headspace.
Tell us about the novel. Or are you not allowed to tell us about the novel because you might give away?
Yeah, it's hard to talk about.
So you're deep in the throes of writing.
What? If you think a poetry book's hard to talk about, a novel is just like trying to do the Rubik's Cube, isn't it? It's quite difficult.
Because it's not finished, and yeah, ask me 6 months from now. But it's coming along. But yeah, once my pamphlet comes out, then I would like to be out doing readings. But I haven't done one for quite some time.
What's the pamphlet called? Just out of interest.
It's called Loose Jewels.
Loose Jewels. And we're having a quick chat off air, but theme-wise, what? I mean, how would you describe your poetry, the content of the publication?
So the publication is themed around. I didn't write them intentionally this way. They just kind of came out, and I realized that they belonged together. Which is that my grandparents, both sides of my family, immigrated to Canada from Europe, and then I immigrated to Europe from Canada, and my experiences of that and being far away from home, and then what is home when you've been away for so long, and all of that. What does it mean?
So what we're talking, family, sense of place, belonging, identity, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's a nice broad sweep, that. I mean, I think that's quite an interesting, kind of group of things to talk about.
Yeah, and it's about language as well. I learned to speak Hungarian when I moved there after hearing my family speak it, but they never taught it to me as a child. So that was interesting too. So that appears, there's Hungarian in the poems, but with footnotes.
Forgive me for my ignorance. With Hungary, what is right? Okay, so was it part of the former USSR at one point, or is it recently just past 20 years had its independence?
So, not the USSR, because it was always its own country, but it was part of the Soviet bloc, so it was behind the Iron Curtain until 1989. But now it's an EU country, and generally speaking, people don't hear a lot about Hungary. Apart from now, they do, because the prime minister is not great.
He's not good. Is he like the sort of...
To the point that there are features on him in the New York Times.
He's a bit Trump, is he? Is he sort of that sort of
He's
way inclined?
yes, except more overtly autocratic and less bumbling. If that instills the fear in you.
A right-wing strongman is what we're looking for there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a dangerous thing. I mean, there's a lot of that
is.
going on these days, isn't there? But, you know.
I mean, there's one thing to be said for self-determination, which we spoke to Aline about last week, and we've also touched on it about you saying the parallels between Canada and Wales being, you know, nationalistic, but in a nice way. So now we're saying that this is almost nationalism in the bad, in the wrong way, almost in a way. Well, not in the wrong way, but just in quite a forceful, dominant way, perhaps. Is that the best way to describe it?
Well, it's curious because the government in Hungary has purposely, they've, you know, put out ads denouncing immigrants. And when I was living there, it was when the huge migration from Syria was happening, and I saw thousands of people sitting in the train stations and the bus stations with nowhere to go, and the Hungarian government wouldn't let them leave, but also wouldn't give them a place to stay, which was really shocking, obviously. So it's strange because also at the same time the World Cup was on and Hungary was doing quite well, and so everyone's like waving their flags, but then the government was like, oh, by the way, we're going to control all the media and take the power away from the judiciary. So
wow, I didn't know that they had so much control over the media. I didn't realize that, but it's
very recent. But yeah, they now own the television stations, and they shut down the newspapers. There are still news sources online that they can't really
touch.
Yeah, but the print and
that's quite
media,
frightening.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, it's being quite mild saying it's quite frightening. It's really frightening. The government shouldn't have control.
And they're right in the center of Europe, in the European Union, so it's.
But there's a worrying trend across Europe, isn't there? And we're not exempt from that. And
no, but he was dragged over the coals today, thankfully, for lying to HRH.
Oh, indeed.
Which you do not lie to HRH. How dare you?
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen to him? I mean, who knows?
No, I'm not
Mr.
a royalist, but there's something quite, you know, there's something in me.
Doesn't it make you want to be one though?
It does. I do.
You're like, how dare you?
How dare you? She's a lovely lady. There is something about the British monarchy. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble here. I don't want them to go. I quite like them.
Well, I mean,
that's a
controversial point. Controversial point.
Well, I mean, no, but it's you don't like to. There is something about it which you've just said. It's like the monarchy is sort of like forgotten about. And then when something like that happens, it's like, he lied to the Queen? Yeah. And it sort of instills this sort of Britishness, which is very strange.
That is a weird thing. But I mean,
you shouldn't lie to anybody.
No, but she's a lovely little granny. She's there having a cup of tea.
There's far worse people that could be head of the state or the Commonwealth.
That's true. And I think the reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that feeling comes up is that, you know, she has to agree to things in order to be a constitutional monarch. So he forced her into an impossible position, which is just wrong,
true.
Right?
That is true. I mean, you know, her hand was in terms of the rubber stamping thing. You know, she really did have to do that.
He would have had a grandmother, and he should have boiled it down to this. He should have thought, I'm lying to my grandmother.
Well, he probably did think that.
He shouldn't have lied to his grandmother.
That's the sort of thing. That's the sort of
because grandmothers always find out.
He seems like the type who would and wouldn't care, though.
Yeah.
You don't like... I mean...
He'd be selling his granny anywhere.
He tried to sell somebody else's
eBay
granny.
It, whatever. Yeah,
but see, the thing is, when you think about it, with our queen... Well, with our... Okay, some people's queen... Some people, maybe not some people's queen. But she's seen it all. She has. I mean, she has seen it, or she has. She's seen the amount of BS.
How many prime ministers has she lived through? Like 8 or 10?
That's a very good question, which I can't answer.
I can probably work it out if I had enough time.
But I'd
struggle. I'd struggle.
So she's seen all this political back and forth. She lived through the Second World War. She saw the damage that the rise of ill-conceived nationalism can take hold in Europe and damage it did to her people. you know. So in a way, you almost feel like saying to certain prime ministers, probably future and current and former, you're not really going to get much past her. She's seen everything. She knows everything.
But he has got it past her, didn't he? But what he didn't get it past, he didn't get it past the court.
The judiciary, yeah, because they've... well, no, I'm glad in a way, to be perfectly honest.
But, I mean, he put her in a possible...
He shouldn't have put... And, well, this touches on what I said to you last week about David Cameron, which I sort of went, I don't like what he's done. I don't like how he's carrying on. I don't like that he's doing this, oh, poor me book tour. And then it well, no, it is. And then it transpires he lied to the monarch. It's like, you're just, nobody likes you.
You don't really want to see a former prime minister popping up at the worst possible moment just because he's got a buck out.
Yeah.
Which is what
And then
Cameron
it transpires he's upset the crown.
Yeah.
Well, why did you... You know, hasn't he got anything better to do? You know what I mean? Isn't there a wall that needs fixing?
I don't think spineless people do. They, you know, I think he knew he'd have a good audience. What is the theme of this podcast?
Excellent question.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because it's now bringing us back to what we should actually talk about. I feel really bad.
We're going to edit. We'll be editing all of that.
We'll be editing, and you will go, no, that's...
We're just here
out.
for beer, really, Emily. To be honest.
Okay, so this is actually a really good question. So let's address the question because it's been said. What is the theme of the podcast? It's very tangential. That's how it goes. So we start with a guest, start talking about what they are either promoting or involving at the moment.
And then Simon can talk about his films and his buddy cop movies.
And then you can berate me or whatnot. But it is just a chat. It's just a general chat, just to sort of bring somebody on, have a little talk and put it out there. I look at it as trying to be as wholesome as possible. I know that we've said this before. Your dad thoroughly enjoys it. My mum thoroughly enjoys it. Yeah. It's just something that's on in the background. We're like wallpaper. It's just something that's on in the background that you can listen to and enjoy, basically, and hopefully, you know, think a little bit about what's been said. Nice. Yeah, well, yeah, I think nice is important. I think nice is missing from day-to-day 21st century life.
Let's bring this back.
Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it a little bit back in. Quite right, Emily, to point that one out.
I see that's the...
Yeah, no, we can go deep into that as well. I mean, if you want to. I mean, you know, feel free.
Okay.
But going back to the Fringe.
Yeah, well, yeah, to the Fringe. You mentioned earlier, a lot earlier now.
Yeah, but we're having fun.
We are. Right. A lot earlier about you were saying that you've been involved with the Fringe from the beginning.
Yes.
Right from the beginning. Yeah. So this is 3 years in.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying it's kind of changed quite a bit, but originally everyone was thinking, well, what's this about? What's kind of, where's the shape of it going? So yeah. I'd be interested to know what those discussions were about, what shape it would take, you know, what the themes are, what's going to happen, how it's going to look.
Well, I mean, Joe would be better to answer the question in terms of the, like, creating the festival, because that came from him. But from my perspective, the first year it was kind of like, oh, remember how there used to be a Fringe? We want to have it back. Won't that be fun? And Joe and Simon run Swansea Music Hub, so they know a lot of the bands, musicians around town, which is fantastic. So they had that as a base. And then it was... The first year was a little bit like the Wild West, but like really fun, which was kind of like, we just sort of wanted to see what would happen. And it was really successful. We had a really great response. We had a really nice turnout for essentially a new festival, even though it had existed many years in the past. And there had been a few attempts at reviving it, but they'd never really got off the ground. So it's really nice to see how this has really taken off.
What's the history of the Fringe then? Because I mean, it sounds like it dates back some years then.
It does. So, well, at least back to, I don't know, 70s, I think, maybe before that. It's the Fringe of the Swansea International Festival, which is on hiatus this year. So we're technically the Fringe of the Swansea Jazz Festival this year, because you need to be the Fringe of something. No, but, you know, it's a great festival. That'll be in the Uplands, so that should be, everyone should check that out too.
So the Jazz Festival was in the Uplands?
That's in the Uplands, yeah.
Right,
this year.
Okay.
The International Festival was, and when it comes back, will be sort of all around the city. They do things like in the Great Hall and in the Taliesin, and they're...
Because you guys don't just do one thing a year in October. You have like a build-up as well, don't you?
Well, the Music Hub, Swansea Music Hub carries on throughout the year, and the Crunch carries on throughout the year. And then during the year, they start gathering the acts together to create what will be the festival weekend. And it's been really amazing. Kind of the first year, we sort of like, I think Joe's dad screen printed some T-shirts for us.
Really lovely guy, by the way.
Yes.
The artist, Keith Bayless. And we kind of were like, all right, well, what do we do? Okay, well, this looks really fun. And we're just kind of running around town like crazy people, but having so much fun. And then last year we had a launch party, and the spoken word artist Holly McNish came and performed, which was really great. And Claire Potter as well. And
Yeah, just to add to that, that was the launch night, wasn't it?
yes.
But the winner of the Swansea Poetry Slam that I run,
That's
I host,
right.
was there, Amelia Unity. So she started the Fringe, actually, that night.
Yes.
And that's quite nice, the way these kind of events have been linking into each other. And even now the podcast, isn't it, sort of linking in there.
Well, hopefully.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all part of that
I've got a
community.
feeling I
though, isn't it?
ruin things, but yeah. Go on.
Well, wow. I mean,
Well,
you've gone dark quickly.
I'm
haven't
gone
you?
dark,
Yeah. Yeah.
Brooding poet.
The brooding age. But the winner of the Swansea Fringe, Swansea Poetry Slam this year, Rosie Buffton, is also taking
Yes.
part, isn't she?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that? When she likely to be on, and which bits of the Fringe she's in? Do you remember off the top
I
of your head?
don't have the program.
No, I know.
I did have the program
It's a
in
big
work.
program.
I did it.
And that's a good point. It's a big program.
Yeah.
There's a lot on. It's online already, and there are paper ones around town.
Are you
People are
excited?
listening.
Because I get
Yes.
your excitement's quite infectious, to be perfectly honest with it. It's quite
Well,
infectious.
Honestly, it's because the Swansea Fringe is really fun. It's just like a fun weekend. I'm so looking forward to it. Last year, there was, the programming expanded. The launch party was just really fantastic, and it had such a great community spirit. And I think it's that feeling of like the city center just feels alive, and you just see all these artists and people enjoying art just filling the city center. And it's just it has such a fantastic energy. And this year, our launch party's in the Brangwyn Hall, which is really exciting.
Which I'm hoping you will come and help me man my stall.
You've got a stall there.
Yeah, did you not know this?
You didn't tell me that.
Well, I was hoping we could do like a live podcast, do a podcast from there.
That's a great idea.
I wouldn't mind you
Yes,
coming
it
along.
is.
Yeah,
You should do
wouldn't
that.
mind me coming along to the podcast.
I kind of, well, yeah,
He's getting
no.
a bit big for his boots.
No, I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. Well, I can't sell anything there. I can't sell strings and plectrums.
So-
Go, would you like your guitar fixed?
So,
Sorry, go on.
so tell us about the stalls and whatnot down there.
I don't know enough about. All I know
All right.
is that Joe sort of sprung into the shop and went, "Oh, hi Simon. Here's some things, this, that, and the other. Are you going to be coming to the Brangwyn?" And I went, "I think I am. What's happening? You're going to have a stall. Okay. What am I going to do? Well, I know the shop. I can't sell anything, can I? Because I'm off premises and it's legal thingy, majig bob. And then I just turn up and whatnot. So I thought in the garden yesterday while the dog was taking a little constitutional, that I thought, I'll just take Asic Bal and we'll maybe do a little podcast, yourself and myself,
why not?
from there, and
Why
just
not?
have the microphones on and maybe talk to people as they come back and
How
forth.
do you think that will work with the sound, though?
I don't
Out of
really
interest.
mind. I think it'd be
It
quite
doesn't
interesting. It'd be
matter.
guerrilla.
Yeah,
these
it
are
would, yeah.
I think it would capture the
Yeah,
excitement.
I think
of
you're
it.
probably right.
The hubbub of
Oh,
the,
very good.
The hub. So the launch is in the Brangwyn,
Yes.
which
and
is next
Thursday.
So how do people get to that? Is that a kind of for artists and performers who are going to be at the
It's for
Fringe?
anyone. So you
Okay.
can buy a ticket. It's part of the weekend ticket if you have a weekend ticket, or you can buy a ticket on the door. And the way it's going to be set up is, I think in the hall itself will be various bands performing. I think Trampoline is performing. Are they?
So you got
think they
bands.
are, yeah.
So you got bands. Have you got poets as well?
Yeah.
Or,
So the way it's going to be set up is there'll be music in one room. There's a room dedicated to poets and readers. So Swansea's own Joe Dunthorne is coming. Mary Alice Dunning, who's shortlisted for Wales Book of the Year.
Yeah.
And a few others. So you can kind of dip into different rooms, and I think there will be art happening and a bar and
There's food. I know there's food.
You know
So
there's food.
The idea is to kind of mill around the Guildhall, the Brangwyn Hall, and kind of enjoy a bit of everything.
Is it like a party kind of atmosphere? Is that yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I believe launch tickets are £8 on the door or part of a weekend ticket.
So for listeners, then, I mean, what sort of music have you got? What bands do you actually have on?
Well, trampoline are quite big.
Yeah, well, I know she's mentioned Trampoline, but I mean, there's presumably other ones, I'm guessing.
There
or
are
not?
other ones. I wish Joe was here to tell you because I'm not the music programmer.
To be honest with you, I'm enjoying this more than I would if Joe was here. Because no,
They'd be arguing all the
we
time.
would be arguing. Do you remember that time? Do you remember that time you? Well, actually, I had a couple of Joe Bayliss stories that I was going to say about.
Oh, please!
No.
come on.
Let Emily
Was
finish.
he with a couple of bikers doing coke in
Oh.
Kingston, Ontario?
No, I love Joe to bits, right? But Gethin will back me up on this story, who is the lead singer and one of the main forces in Prosperina, who I'm hoping I'll get to see live, because for listeners of the podcast who like something of a heavier nature, Prosperina are absolutely amazing band from down this neck of the woods.
But they're on this stage. You're
No, they're not. No, Perla,
they're not?
which is Freakies, who's another friend of mine. That's his band. They're headlining that. Prosperina are on another stage. I think they might be at Bunkhouse, I would have thought. But yeah, I'm glad to see them back and doing what they do best, which is rocking out, and they're a fantastic band. I can't tell you how much.
Swansea Legends.
Swansea Legends, they are. Joe Bayliss, right? So Joe Bayliss will... I hope you're listening to this, Joe, because I'm now going to dish the dirt.
Right,
So,
Emily, pour him another whiskey.
Right, no.
Let's get deep into this.
Many conversations I've had with Joe at the, say, like, for example, the Brunswick. My eternal memory of Joe at the Brunswick is you know, buy a round, you do rounds. So I'd have my round, and then Joe would go, oh, would you like me to go and get a round? Yeah, sure, Joe, no problem. What would you like? Oh, I'll have a Jack Daniels and Coke, please.
It's a good Joe impression.
Oh, thanks. And then Joe will come back, and he's done this to me. He came back with like a pint of Reverend James, and I put it on the table, and I went, Joe, what? Or am I getting this confused? But I asked for one thing, and Joe came back with something else. And Joe's done it to me twice, and I'm pretty sure Gethin told me he's done it to him once. So that was one of my Joe stories. But no. And I've been on tour with Joe.
What are you insinuating?
I'm insinuating that Joe gets the bar and just has goes blank. Just goes blank, maybe. And then goes, oh, I'll just get that because I'm drinking that. That'll be fine. You know, like your grandparents. Oh, you like that? Why? Well, I like it. So you can have it.
Did you two work in Cranes together?
Yes, we did.
So how long were you both down there for then?
Well, I knew Joe before that.
Oh, right. Okay.
Joe and I were in the Phantom Light together.
Right.
So Joe replaced Jason Jones, who was the first guitarist and engineer of the band, and I came in. Actually, at one point, there were 3 Joneses and 2 Jameses in the band. There was Anthony Jones, Simon Jones, Jason Jones, then Matt James and Chris James, but Chris had left at that point. So everybody thought we were brothers, but we looked nothing alike. So unfortunately, Jason left, and we had this huge void to fill, because Jason was very understated, but my God, was that guy good. Is good as a musician. So the burlap was requested, and he obliged. I think he was with Nanook at that time. We played the Pilly Pally Festival. I don't know if that's still going, because I've been out of the loop for a little while with the festivals. All I know is Joe doing his thing. And we asked Joe, and he joined the Phantom Light, and that was it, really. It sort of changed. So then we did the little tour in 2013, and we played... Where did we play? We played Bristol, London, Cardiff, Swansea, Liverpool, and Manchester. I don't think it's probably in that order. And then Joe and I started working together in 2015. But Joe became the lead singer and the frontman of the band that was after Phantom Light, which was Masubi. And he was doing
This is a real education for you, Emily, here, isn't it? I mean,
I didn't know. I
this is
thought he
going
was
back
just a
way back.
singer-songwriter.
No.
I had no idea.
No, and to be fair to Joe's stuff is quite heartbreaking. He did tell me the other day he hasn't done anything out live for 2 years, which is sort of, I was a bit gobsmacked at, because there was one point he was doing
I hope
loads.
it's not the Fringe's fault.
No, I don't. I know Joe
Takes up a lot
just
of time.
does his thing. But yeah, we then did Masubi, which we only ever did one live gig. We spent months rehearsing. We did it at Mozart's, and it was probably one of the best gigs I've ever done live, ever. It really was. It was fantastic. Excuse me. So yeah, Joe and I we did work at Cranes together at one point.
that was a long answer for like how long have you worked at Cranes for?
Well, you
wasn't it?
asked. I mean, what do you
No,
want to say?
no,
I mean,
you're quite right.
half.
I can't remember. I don't think I can remember seeing
Joe was there when you and I first met.
He was he?
Yeah, Joe had to.
No, he was. Yeah, you're right.
Joe had to do
Yeah.
shitloads with the internet. Joe was
was he?
basically running the internet side of the company.
Yeah.
He really was. And everything else in between. So yeah, and I was like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I was really quite flattered that he asked for us to endorse the stage, because we'd only been going 3 or 4 months, and gave him a big hug and said thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Have you got your banner sorted then for the Fringe?
No.
Oh dear.
I can't afford a banner. It's just me there with probably a screwdriver set and going, hi, I run that guitar shop that's above Derek's, so come in and say hi.
It's quite difficult to sort of do the advertising, I'd imagine, for the Fringe as well, Emily. I mean, does that take? I mean, how much money does that cost? I mean, I suppose with social media, it's a bit different, isn't it? But
I think, well, social media does make it simpler, but I know that a lot of time is spent on, producing it, which is, to advertise it, you need to get the word out, and it means posting a lot.
I quite like the Fringe's online presence, actually.
Yeah.
Who does the videos and that sort of stuff? Because they're quite clever.
I believe that's down to Joe and Simon.
Oh, they're actually doing that themselves, are they?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Joe tried to get Reese and Adam and I to help with it, and we were kind of like, we don't know how. Well, they might know more than me. I was just like, I don't know. I use Instagram.
You've kind of got the mix just right. It's not overbearing with the social media. It's not like, oh God, no. It's it doesn't feel like that. So, oh, okay, that's happening. All
Yeah,
right.
it's quite a clever build-up.
Yeah, I think one thing that helps is that we have sponsors now. Swansea Bid is our main sponsor, plus Sin City and BBC Horizons and
Thomas Watkins.
I don't know. Swansea Council.
Beautifully put in again. We had to get the Thomas Watkins link in there. Simon, you are a
Brought
genius.
to you by.
Can you tell Emily why we've mentioned that?
Or every podcast.
Yeah, we're trying to get Thomas Watkins to sponsor the podcast.
When he says
He's asking, that's why he was asking
Yeah.
you about things, because he wants sponsorship
right,
for this podcast.
that's not entirely true. But he says I'm trying to get Thomas Watkins to sponsor us. I've sent them no emails.
Nobody's
Let's hope
listening.
they're listening.
No correspondence.
What have we got in our hands
Nothing at
here
all.
today?
I don't
actually?
know.
Is it an Indian Pale Ale, or
It's
as
not.
it is
It's not.
IPA? That's what it stands for, Indian
It's
Pale
a
Ale.
very pretty cover.
It is
Beautiful
pretty.
green, 4.8.
Is that Ganesh?
They've
Yeah.
rebranded.
It is. What do you make of this particular beer then?
I've not tried it. I've been on Jim Beam all
Right.
night.
Right. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for them to sponsor me.
That's going to be.
It's never gonna happen.
No.
It says,
Tell us a little bit about the beer.
I haven't drunk it. I wouldn't know what to
No,
say.
but you're reading the label.
I'm not reading it. I've had a couple to drink. I can barely function. I'm an idiot.
I know, I'm trying.
Introducing Thomas Watkins IPA, a refreshing new addition to our portfolio of award-winning beers. Brewed to a full-bodied 4.8%. You are driving, so make sure this is your only one. Using 3 different malts, this golden beer packs a fruity, flavoursome punch, bursting with the, what does that say? Irresistible aromas of peach, mandarin, and apricot, no less. And as always, where's the address? Unit 3, Cadbury Road, Valleyway, Swansea Enterprise Park.
Another plug. Actually, I just realised, I think I read that out last week.
No, you didn't read this one out last week.
Wasn't it not?
No,
It
I'm
was
pretty sure it wasn't.
All right.
But Thomas Watkins, you really should sponsor the Fringe because that would be really cool.
They should.
You should really
But I
sponsor
should
the
also point out we have a lot of family-friendly activities.
Right.
Okay.
Right, go on.
Go on.
Which, just in general, a lot of the music that's on until 8 o'clock in the evening, under 16s can come in with a responsible adult to various bars around town, and 16 plus can go to events as well without an adult.
Are there any concession rates for different age groups or not?
We do have certain wristbands for young people to show that they can't drink. But I don't have the list for prices with me.
No, don't worry about
But
it.
a lot of the family events are free.
That's really cool. So you were saying that you've managed to organise with the council in Castle Square to have a superhero film viewing. So we didn't determine which of the. It might be both. We don't know. It could be Endgame.
I think it's Endgame.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's
and there's
gonna
a superhero party.
Where's the
I heard.
superhero party?
I don't know.
Okay.
Walkabout maybe, but I don't know if that's part of the Fringe or if just people want to dress up. But come in your costumes to any Fringe events.
It's quite clever though that you guys have managed to get a film on, because that seems something that's really highly underrated in Castle Gardens. Not having a go at the council, but just saying it's something, because normally it's the tennis or it's the rugby.
Oh, they just stream the bloody news all the time, don't they?
Well, last year they played The Greatest Showman, which was really nice because it was just lots of families and there was, it's a musical and all the food was out. And then a lot of those people ended up coming to the Fringe Festival. And I think because it was such a success last year, and I think technically the film last year was because of the International Festival being on. But this year, I think it was just a matter of that worked really well. Let's do it again.
I think it's a great idea.
It's a very bloody good idea.
It's really clever.
I'm annoyed because I didn't think of it myself. It's like, yes.
Who came up with it? Was that Joe?
I think that might have been the council.
Oh, that was a council plan.
But
okay.
Because the film and the food festival, they're sort of concurrent with the Fringe, because the Fringe is for local artists to showcase their work.
I'm glad that it's in its third year, and I'm not just saying that. I am, because I was quite proud to have been involved in the first year of it. And now to see it 3 years in, it's like, okay, I'm guessing you guys are here to stay now, which is good.
Yeah.
It's good news.
And it's really spread across the city. It sort of started out more as a high street festival, which was really nice because it helps to revive the high street, which is reviving every day. I love the high street now. When I moved here, I was told not to walk down there alone at night, or in the day. And now, with each year, it's kind of spreading out. And
yeah, you know what?
really nice.
I was wondering what was going to happen art scene wise, because obviously, we've talked about this before. Pierre Donahue was doing the Do Not Go Gentle Festival.
We need to get Pierre back on. We owe him a huge apology.
Leave that with me. I still haven't
we owe
got onto
Pierre, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, we're rubbish. We'll get it sorted.
But yeah, because he was doing 5 or 6 years, and then he sort of made that decision that he wasn't going to do it again. And then it's like, oh, flipping heck, actually, there's space for some cultural stuff to go on. And then suddenly Joe and Simon get involved and create something really nice, really special. So it's nice to see that traction taking place.
Mm.
It is. Let's not beat around the bush. It is nice and special. That's we're not just saying that, but
and as well as the Do Not Go Gentle Festival, there was the Dylan Thomas Festival when the Dylan Thomas Centre was geared more towards evening events, and then they switched their focus. So we lost a few really nice annual things to showcase. Those were not primarily. There was a lot of literature programming that we lost for a couple of years, and the Fringe has really revived it.
Okay, so Emily, you're sort of heavily involved in the art scene. You're writing, you're doing lots and lots of different things. How do you sort of see the writing scene in Wales at the moment and the literature kind of family?
I think it's really positive is like the general feeling for me that, well, when I moved here, that was what made it feel like home. I was very lucky to have Nigel Jenkins as my poetry professor and my mentor.
Wow, that's nice.
So when I came to do my MA, it was Nigel and Stevie Davies, and so like what a way to be welcomed to Wales.
He's had a big impact on the literary world. Please edit that. Please edit that.
So, no, I think just leave it in.
Yeah, you can leave it in. He doesn't care now, does he? He's done it.
Literary. Shall I mess it up as well?
Yeah, go on, then do it.
Literary.
Scene.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people have got a lot of good things to say about him and the influence he's had. I mean, how did you take his lectures and influence?
Well, when I came here to do my MA in creative writing, and it was just such a special year in my life. It was, the first time I'd moved away from Canada, and that was really exciting. But also to experience a real writing community. I'd never had that before. I had like a little bit in university, and I still have my mentor in Canada, who was my professor then. But Nigel really made a point of kind of when we arrived, every year he would do, with the new intake of MA students, he'd do a Swansea walk. And we walked the perimeter of Swansea. We walked up Cwmdonkin Hill to Town Hill. He pointed out the ancient fishing, I don't know how to describe them. There are things in Swansea Bay that the ancient settlers here used to catch fish with the tides. And he walked us through the psychogeography of the city, and he wanted us to know where we lived.
Nice reference to psychogeography. Have you listened to the Steve Balsamo podcast that we did? That's interesting. Steve Balsamo was talking quite heavily in depth about Will Self, the lecture that he sort of listened to in the psychogeography. But I mean, walking around a city and get a feel for the place like that, it does kind of change your interaction with it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, how do you, sort of look at Swansea then as someone who's sort of come in from outside, then, shall we say? I mean, how do you, kind of view the city as a whole?
Well, actually, I think it's 13 years ago tomorrow that I first came here. And it certainly changed a lot in that period of time. So it's interesting now to be both an outsider, but to have a real history with a place. And how do I view Swansea? I'm never not entertained. If that makes sense. We were just talking about how, I don't know, I have this often when people hear I'm from Canada, or in the summer I went home for a few weeks, and people are like, wow, like what was 3 weeks in Canada like? And I'm like, I don't know, I cleaned out the basement, like got my hair cut. And I'm not from the places on the postcards. And so for me, coming to Wales was really exciting. I thought, I can't believe you just live by the ocean and it's just here, and you can pick a beach to go to. Or the first castle I ever saw was Swansea Castle. And I was like amazed looking at this castle, and my new friend said to me, like, what, you never seen a castle before?
But you do have some.
I hadn't.
You do have some fortifications in Canada. I mean, there are here and there, but not like. Yeah, I understand.
But no, not really.
No.
There are like forts, but they're like from the 1860s, or I don't know, 100 years ago. No, I'd never seen a medieval castle before. It like blew my mind. But those were like my first impressions a long time ago. Swansea now, I think it's a place that, not just for me, but obviously for other people. I mean, look, we're sitting in Dylan Thomas's house. It inspires people to create stuff. And whether that's art or music or writing or dance or whatever, I think it's just for whatever reason, this fertile place.
Because you also do ballet, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Right, okay.
Who told you that?
Joe Bayliss. Okay, so a little bit on the ballet, please.
Oh, well, he's overestimating my skills. I'm one of these people who danced throughout their childhood and now goes to an adult class, which is nice.
So you've kept that up then?
Yeah, I started dancing when I was 5. So it's about, well, I'll betray my age, about 30 years.
Does it influence or inform your poetry at all in any shape, form, or way?
I think I really like dancing because I'm not choreographing. It's a great way to express myself without the angst of poetry or writing fiction.
Right.
There's something, it's kind of a weird thing to say, to follow what the teacher or the choreographer is doing and to try and just replicate what they're doing as best as you can is very satisfying because you're still feeling what you're doing.
But you're switching off the critical faculties, perhaps.
Yeah, so it's just about music and movement and precision and making it look beautiful, which is really nice. Explain
to a layman the beauty of ballet.
Oh, wow. Where do I begin? Okay, so I'll tell you from 2 perspectives. As a spectator, they're really incredible athletes, but they also need to have acting skills, artistic skills, in terms of you need to be good with music because there's a lot about internal rhythm and counting. And it tells a story. I think it's really amazing. To me, it's like watching a sketch artist, but like moving, like as if a drawing was moving. I just think it's beautiful to watch. In terms of when you're doing it, okay, I can't do it as well as the people that I watch on stage, but when you get something right, it like feels amazing.
Elevated.
I don't know. It's when there's the music playing and you hear the rhythm or the sweep of the music, and then your body matches it at the exact moment that it should, and you can feel either maybe you stretch yourself in a certain way or you're using your strength. It's just like an incredible feeling in the body and in the brain.
It almost kind of sounds like a more... It's almost like a very pure form of art, though, isn't it? There's no boundary there. There's no trying to put something down into words. It's almost, words and physical art is more secondary, almost, isn't it? Like movement in itself is just, it is pure in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, it's curious because ballet is quite a disciplined form of dance that has a lot of rules, but at the same time, the really great dancers, they leap high in the air and, they can spin and do the most incredible things that are really freeing.
Do you get the opportunity to go and watch much ballet at all?
Not lately. Sometimes there's some good dance on in the Taliesin that I like to take in. I must admit, I was quite spoiled that I grew up near Toronto and my mum would buy seasons tickets and take me to the ballet. And then when I lived in Budapest, I used to go to the ballet all the time in the opera house.
Is there quite a cultural difference then in somewhere like Hungary where it's venerated more than it is perhaps in the West?
Well, there's an argument. Is Hungary the West?
Okay, well, as opposed to the West, should I say?
I would say it is the West.
Mm.
I mean, it's Central Europe. In terms of, I don't know, that's a different
Is there
story,
more of an appreciation?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say that going to the theater in general, Hungary is not a wealthy country. It was at one time. So there are a lot of really magnificent theaters throughout the cities, but especially Budapest. But people just, on a Wednesday night, they'll like go to the opera house and put on a nice dress and take in a ballet and then go home and go to work the next day. And it seems very natural. And you see grandparents bringing their children. And I was a teacher there, and the teachers, we would bring our students from the high school. We'd like get tickets for them, and we just sort of meet them there.
So there's a lack, whereas in the UK and within perhaps the West, there isn't that level of appreciation of that, dare I say, high art form with theatre and opera and ballet.
The difference is that part of it is that tickets are prohibitively expensive. Let's say if you wanted to go to the Royal Ballet in London, it's fantastic, but tickets are expensive.
How much are they usually?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, to go to the ballet in Toronto to see the National Ballet of Canada, it's at least $100 or more for a ticket.
For just one sitting?
Yeah. And, you know, people pay that to go see a musical, and that's fair enough. And it's not that they don't deserve the money, but I'd say that tickets in general were less expensive in Hungary, which made it kind of a more accessible thing for people to go to. And it made a high art form seem just kind of like part of people's lives. The same goes for the opera. People just go and enjoy it. And they had musicals on there too, and plays and stuff. But I think
it sort of sounds like it's more of an everyday experience there. You know,
it's ingrained in the culture.
Which is really nice and really natural. And my grandparents came from Hungary, so I think for my mom, you know, we grew up like in the suburbs of Toronto, but it was quite natural to her, like, well, of course we must take the children to the ballet. And yes, it's expensive, but we won't spend money on something else, because her parents used to do that when they were really poor immigrants. They would wait for rush tickets, and sometimes there weren't any and they'd just have to go home. But often they would, and they'd bring their children. And meanwhile, like, you know, they were struggling to put food on the table. So it's like the value of art, I think it needs to be ingrained, I don't know, in people from a young age.
But it's a very different thing on the continent, isn't it? The value of art is appreciated more. I mean, it's lost. The UK has this tendency to sort of just dismiss it outright, and America as well perhaps dismisses it outright, whereas in a lot of Europe it's more appreciated, as you say.
I think it's also just in your face. Like, the architecture is just there, beautiful, looking at you, which is really nice. It's probably why I prefer living over here than in Canada.
Is ballet moving forward at all? I mean, because obviously I'm, as I said, I'm layman, so when you say ballet, all I think of is straight away, I can only name you two, which would be Swan Lake and the Nutcracker Suite. That would be
they're still performed every year, and they're both great ballets.
Do you have a case now with ballet that I don't say genre, the art form is interpreted and then brought forward with using the traditional rules and teachings of ballet? I mean, is it still thriving?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I do contemporary dance as well, which is based on the foundations of ballet. And contemporary dance, I mean, it's growing all the time. There's a reality show in the States called So You Think You Can Dance, hosted by Kat Deely.
I had such a crush on the Kat Deely.
The Kat Deely. She defected to the United States and has been
What's wrong with that?
on a dance program ever since.
I didn't know that. She used to date Huey Morgan, who's another one of my big heroes, lead singer of the Fun Loving Criminals.
Well, there you go.
There you
Yeah, contemporary dance is huge. And it feels really good to dance, even better than ballet.
So do you do that as well then?
Yeah,
sort
I
of
do.
contemporary style then?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Which is kind of like taking the rules of it and flipping them. A lot of throwing yourself around, playing with balance.
What's your favorite dance movie? If you had to pick one, because I
can only pick one.
Well, yeah, because I think you can always pick. I think there's always good in every genre, and I have a favorite dance movie, but I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, I'm gonna pick two
Okay,
because
go
they're
for two.
two different kinds.
Okay.
The first one Well, no, I'll go with the serious one first. Is The Turning Point.
Don't know it.
It's late 70s with Baryshnikov and Shirley MacLaine and Anne Bancroft. And it's really good. And they call Baryshnikov the horny little Russian. And it's like dance rivals. I don't know. It's really good. The other one is Center Stage, which is not a very good movie.
Okay.
But I'm quite fond of it. It's like one of those movies that you can make fun of it, but you're also thoroughly enjoying it. It doesn't have any like actual actors in it. They're all like dancers, so they're bad actors, but the dancing's good.
I can only think of two.
What are you two?
Well, no, it's not my two. I can only
think it. Well,
go on. Let's be careful here. I can
No.
only think of two dance movies.
Okay, go
off the
for
top
it.
of my head. Dirty Dancing
Yeah.
and Footloose. I mean, that's
Okay.
literally the only two I can think
You've
of.
mentioned-
I was going
mentioned one-
strictly ballet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So
Yeah, but we're uneducated. We're idiots.
Oh yeah, we're the idiot podcast.
Yeah, we're the idiot podcast. We're like, okay.
We're the
if-
lowest
okay,
of the
if
low,
we're
Emily.
expanding,
Let's
my
expand.
goodness. This is overwhelming. There are a lot of movies that have great dancing in them, like Cabaret, or any of the musicals. West Side Story is incredible dancing, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a new one.
La La Land.
Oh, I didn't like that movie.
Didn't you? That was huge. It was like this
I know.
Renaissance thing.
And everyone was like, "Oh, I bet you love La La Land." And I was like, "Nah, it was shit." Can I swear?
Of course you can.
Yeah, we can swear.
You're Canadian. You're allowed to do whatever you want. You're practically royalty.
I'll tell you my issue with La La Land.
Go on.
Okay. They chose two leads who were not dancers, and they had them tap dancing. Okay, Ryan Gosling had done a bit of dancing, but they weren't like, if you're gonna choose, if it's gonna be a musical, pick really good singers and really good dancers, like they used to do in the 50s with like Gene Kelly,
Fred
like,
Astaire.
I want to see good tap dancing. I don't want to see people where I'm like, I could do that better than you.
I think one of the finest performances of dance has to be.
If you say Ricky Gervais, I'm going to throw this bottle cap at you. Is that what you're going to say?
I wasn't going to say that.
Okay.
I wasn't going to stoop that low.
Yeah.
But I was actually going to say Morecambe and Wise, Singing in the Rain. Comedy and dance. So for me, that ticks a couple of good boxes there.
I've never seen it.
You've missed out.
well,
it's very funny.
My favourite dance movie, expanding
go.
it, is Footloose.
Oh, you going Footloose?
I fucking love Footloose.
Oh my God. Wow.
I love Kevin Bacon though, I love Footloose. I think it's a great film. It is. It's. I own it on DVD. It's a great soundtrack. It's good.
I was going to ask if it's a soundtrack thing as well. But,
Soundtracks do help. If Center Stage didn't have it's not even good music, but it has a good soundtrack somehow. The final number is to Jamiroquai, and it's very compelling.
I mean, my sister was obsessed with Dirty Dancing, and by all accounts, I was watching a documentary on Channel 5 the past couple of nights. Patrick Swayze's mum was she was a really good dance instructor from Texas, and so it was in his blood. Basically, I think he did even do ballet. The only one
He was a dancer, though.
Yeah, he was good. I got a soft spot for Patrick Swayze. I do.
Wow.
He was cool. He was a cool dude.
Yeah.
Swayze crazy. Flashdance is the one I don't like because that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Industrial welder by day and then dancer by night. It just doesn't.
It's not really the point.
No, I know. I'm just being facetious, but yeah, So, Footloose is brilliant. I love it. I like it. But I mean, musicals, that's the thing as well. I mean, do you like musicals as well? Or?
Yes, I do. Not all musicals, but I'm a musical fan.
There was one musical in particular that made me want to pick up a guitar, which was Return to the Forbidden Planet, which I saw.
Never heard of it.
Leslie Nielsen is in the 1950s film Forbidden Planet.
He's Canadian.
Fantastic. We're coming full back circle. It's perfect. Brilliant actor. Great comedian. And then there was a stage production called Return to the Forbidden Planet, and I saw it in 1995 in the Grand Theatre. And they tried to make it contemporary, so they had some of the supporting cast were the good musicians, and then the main actors were singing, obviously. But at the end of it, the supporting cast did a couple of numbers, and it made me want to play guitar because they had wireless systems, and they came in amongst the crowd, and it was wild. It really was, because it crossed that line from being it's a musical to where they're now playing standards like Johnny B. Good, and like one of the supporting cast is a guitarist, and he's with his wireless system and he's walking around the ground, and it made me want to be a guitarist. It was like from that moment I was like, right, that's what I want to do, because this looks so much fun and I'm having a blast. So that's the only sort of, I'm trying to think, is there another musical I really like? No, I can't think of one. I really can't.
I'm all out of musicals.
West Side Story is a classic,
well,
so
it's
I'm not going to... Oklahoma, but... Yeah.
I was in Oklahoma when I was in high school.
I think it's one of my mum's favourites. So, obviously, to not wanting to wrap up, but having to wrap up because you do have to go. Not because we want you to go, but you do have a prior engagement.
So our discussion about the writing scene in Wales was just me waffling on about ballet.
No.
Yeah,
but
and Footloose.
And Footloose. No, but that's... So, okay, let's get some very important dates.
Okay.
So for those on the podcast, when is the Fringe beginning?
The Fringe begins next Thursday, 3rd of October, is the launch party at the Brangwyn Hall, which is open to everyone. You can buy tickets on the door, or it's part of a weekend ticket if you get a wristband. And then the Fringe programming begins the day after on the Friday and goes all the way through till Sunday night.
What time on Friday?
I think most things, because a lot of people are working during the day, sort of kick off from 3-4 o'clock.
So if you wanted to go and get one of these wristbands, go to the Three Lamps.
Three Lamps will be there from noon on Friday and a bit earlier, kind of when they open. So just after 10, Saturday and Sunday. We'll be there till at least 6 in the evening. But you can also buy tickets on the door and day wristbands on the door of events if the headquarters is already closed.
Well, are you excited? That's my last sort of question.
Of course I'm excited.
Yeah.
Honestly, the main thing is the Fringe is really fun. And the nice thing about it is because it's relatively cheap, there isn't that feeling of like, oh, what if I don't like something? Just try it out. You might find something that you never expected to like.
Do you have any personal recommendations that people should check out?
Ooh. Well, this is kind of a broad one, but I would say if you're more of a music person, go to some literature and poetry events. And if you're more of a book person, take in some music or comedy.
Where are the literary events going to be staged?
They're in different venues, so check your program.
Okay.
But I think some will be in Cinema and Co, possibly Tech Hub, and a few other places.
And don't miss out on the Psychon stage.
Oh, miss out on the Psychon stage on Sunday.
Why? There's lots of bands going on there, man. There's lots of really good bands.
Don't unpromote.
Yeah.
No, but you guys are okay.
No, he's just being a bit self-effacing because it's his stage and he's also...
No, it's not my stage. I was asked to do it. So I'll be the short one in the corner in probably an ill-fitting hat, whether it be a Rasta hat or baseball cap, depending on what part of... the world I'd like to represent that day. You can come and see me, Simon Jones, and have a chat. I don't mind. We'll have a chat about anything. I won't be drinking because I've got to be serious and sober. Because I'll have my toolkit with me. We will be promoting the Psychon stage at Hangar 18. I'm very nervous. I've got to be honest with you. I'm incredibly nervous about it because, well, no, it is. It's
but Fringe crowds are friendly crowds.
Good. It's going to be good. It's going to be. I am nervous, but
it sounds like a great weekend, man.
It is going to be.
I think all of the program that I've seen so far. I mean, there's so much. There's such a variety, isn't there, about what's going on? Whether it's, as you say, literary, poetry, music. It's got it all really. And well played to yourself and Joe, I have to say, and everybody else who's involved.
Yeah, I should say, and Simon and Reese and Adam.
Right. Okay.
Because they do stuff all year with Joe. I kind of swing in this time of year and get to work with all the people.
Well, we wish you all the best for the Fringe. We will be there. Simon is definitely going to be there, and I will be.
He's probably going to ignore me, so I wouldn't blame that.
Yeah,
hi, do you remember me?
It depends what hat you wear, mate.
It depends on what hat I wear.
If you're not wearing a hat, I might not know who you
Yeah,
are.
exactly.
Long
I
hair.
might have to switch the wardrobe up a bit as well.
Yeah, to show
freshen
off.
it up a bit.
Freshen it up.
But Emily, thank you very much for coming on the podcast this
My
week,
pleasure.
and I hope everyone's enjoyed listening. And we'll catch you next time.
So, as in the old tradition of the two Ronnies, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.